I'll never forget the way the world seemed to pause that afternoon. The sun was sharp and golden, bouncing off the polished hood of my Rolls Royce like it had been waiting for this exact moment. The engine purred beneath me, smooth and powerful, a world away from the coughing, sputtering wreck I used to drive. I eased the car into the circular driveway outside the country club, every eye turning as the glossy black beast came to a stop. My heels clicked against the pavement as I stepped out, silk blouse brushing softly against my skin, diamond bracelet catching the light. And just like that, silence. Pure, unbroken silence. They remembered me. Oh, they remembered. The last time most of them saw me, I was the girl in the dented Corolla that needed a prayer just to start in the morning. They laughed back then at stoplights in parking lots, even when I pulled up at family gatherings. Emily, they used to smirk, maybe one day you'll get yourself a real car. Now those same mouths hung open. I caught my reflection in the window, hair sleek, lipstick flawless, eyes steady. On the surface, I was untouchable, but inside, there was still a faint echo of the sting from all those years ago. A mix of hurt, pride, and resilience that no amount of money could quite erase. And then, as if on cue, my phone buzzed inside my handbag. A name flashed across the screen, one that pulled me straight back into the past I thought I'd buried. The past was coming for me, and for the first time, I was ready. I was 19 the first time I realized how cruel people could be. My old Toyota Corolla, the one with mismatched doors and a trunk that never fully closed, rattled into the parking lot of Franklin High School's alumni picnic. I had saved up every ounce of courage to show my face there, thinking maybe, just maybe, time had softened old judgments. I was wrong. As soon as I parked, I saw them. Danielle Harper, the girl who once borrowed my notes and never returned them, pointing at my car and laughing with her perfectly groomed friends. Beside her was Jake Matthews, my high school crush turned banker, shaking his head with that smug half-smile. "Careful," Danielle said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Don't lean on it too hard. Might fall apart." The laughter echoed in my chest, louder than any engine roar. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I forced myself to smile, pretending their words didn't matter, but inside, my throat burned. When I finally got home that evening, I parked in the driveway of our tiny duplex and sat in the car until the engine cooled. My grandmother, Ruth, came out with 2 mugs of chamomile tea. She didn't need to ask, she always knew. "They laughed again, didn't they?" she said softly, handing me the warm cup. I nodded, unable to hold back the tears anymore. Grandma leaned against the car, her hand brushing the rusted door with something like reverence. "Emily," she whispered, "they're laughing at the car, not the driver. But one day, the car you drive will match the woman you've become. Don't you forget that." Her words sank into me like seeds planted in rocky soil. That night, I decided something quietly but firmly. I would not explain myself anymore. I wouldn't try to convince them I had value. I would build my life in silence, brick by brick, even if no one believed in me. The next morning, with trembling hands and a racing heart, I applied for a second job, waitressing nights after my retail shifts. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't easy, but it was mine. That was the day I stopped caring about proving people wrong and started caring about proving myself right. The years that followed were a blur of exhaustion, determination, and tiny sparks of victory that no one but me seemed to notice. By day, I folded clothes and rang up customers at a department store in downtown Chicago. By night, I tied my hair back, slipped on a black apron, and waited tables at a diner off the highway. Some nights my feet throbbed so badly I wanted to cry before even getting home. But every paycheck, every single tip, went straight into savings. At first, the goal was simple: escape survival mode. But as the months passed, something inside me shifted. I wanted more than just getting by. I wanted to create something that was mine. That's when I met Clara Reynolds. She was a regular at the diner, always sitting in booth 7 with her leather-bound planner and silver hair pinned back in a twist. One night, after I refilled her coffee, she looked up at me and said, You've got the eyes of someone who's going places. What's your dream, sweetheart? I laughed, embarrassed. I don't think I can afford to have one. But Clara didn't let it go. Over time, she became a mentor of sorts, teaching me about online business, digital marketing, and investing. She lent me her old laptop when mine broke down, and sometimes she'd slide business books across the booth table like they were secret treasures. The learning curve was brutal. I stayed up until 2 or 3 in the morning watching tutorials, teaching myself web design and social media strategy. I burned meals, missed calls, and showed up to shifts with dark circles under my eyes. And still, every time I doubted myself, I remembered Grandma Ruth's words, "The car you drive will match the woman you've become." It started small. My first freelance gig, designing a logo for a bakery, paid just $75. But when I got the email saying the client loved it, I nearly screamed into my pillow with joy. A month later, I landed a bigger project, then another. Slowly, my side hustle turned into a full-fledged digital marketing business. I didn't tell my family. I didn't post about it online. To everyone else, I was just Emily, the girl still driving that beat-up Corolla. Let them laugh. Let them assume. I was building something they couldn't see. The day I signed my first 5-figure contract, I sat in the driver's seat of that same old car and sobbed. The steering wheel soaked in my tears as I whispered, "We did it." That Corolla, ugly and ridiculed, had carried me to every meeting, every late-night coffee run, every moment of doubt. It was falling apart, but so was the old version of me. Within 5 years, I had clients across the country, a team working under me, and an investment portfolio that was quietly growing into 7 figures. And yet, I kept driving that car. Not because I couldn't buy better, but because I wanted to wait for the right moment, the perfect reveal. The world thought Emily Parker was a nobody with a rusty car. What they didn't know was that I was already sitting on the kind of empire people once told me I'd never build. And one day soon, they were going to see it. The invitation came in the form of a cream-colored envelope slipped into my mailbox. Franklin High School 10-year reunion. I almost tossed it into the trash without a second glance. Why would I voluntarily walk back into the same halls, the same faces, that once made me feel so small? But something inside me stirred. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was that tiny ember of defiance that had never truly gone out. Or maybe it was simply time. Time to let them see me. Not the Emily they thought they knew, but the woman I had become. So, on a warm Friday evening in June, I rolled up to the reunion in a brand new Rolls Royce Phantom, jet black with cream leather interiors. The valet's eyes widened as I handed him the keys. My heels clicked against the pavement as I walked toward the double doors, heart steady, head high. Inside, laughter and music filled the gymnasium. People milled about with drinks in hand, swapping stories of marriages, careers, children. At first, no one noticed me. I signed my name on the check-in sheet, feeling like an undercover spy in enemy territory. Then Danielle Harper spotted me. Her lips curled into that same mocking smile she'd worn a decade earlier. "Emily Parker," she drawled. "Well, look at you. Still driving that old beater." The question floated in the air like poison. A few heads turned, curiosity sparking. I didn't answer. Not yet. I let her words hang there, savoring the irony. Because outside, gleaming under the evening lights, was $500,000 worth of truth waiting for its cue. Jake Matthews approached next, his tie loosened, drink in hand. "Did you Uber here?" he chuckled. "Guess some things never change." That was my moment. I tilted my head, a small smile tugging at my lips. "Actually," I said evenly, "I drove myself." Their brows furrowed. "In what?" Danielle pressed. I gestured casually toward the entrance. "Why don't you see for yourself?" Curiosity got the better of them. A small crowd followed as I led them outside. The second those polished doors swung open, gasps filled the air. There it was, the Rolls Royce Phantom, sleek and commanding, the valet standing proudly beside it like a guard. Danielle's jaw went slack. Jake blinked like he was trying to clear a hallucination. "That's yours," someone whispered. I nodded, the smile widening just enough. "Yes." Mine. Silence. The same silence I remembered from years ago, except now it was charged with awe instead of ridicule. I took my time, walking around the car, letting the stare sink in. Funny, isn't it? I said softly. You all mocked me for the car I drove back then. But what you didn't realize is that while you were laughing, I was building. Every late night, every double shift, every risk I took, it all led here. Danielle tried to laugh, but it came out brittle. Well, I guess you got lucky. Luck. I repeated, my voice steady but sharp. Luck didn't keep me up studying when the rest of you were partying. Luck didn't get me through rejection after rejection. Luck didn't build my company from scratch.
No, Danielle.
That wasn't luck. That was me. Their faces were priceless, a mixture of shame, disbelief, and reluctant admiration. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the girl with the rusty Corolla. I felt like the woman who had taken every insult, every doubt, every sneer, and turned it into fuel. The silence broke into murmurs, whispers spreading like wildfire. But I no longer cared what they said. Because tonight, I wasn't here to prove myself. I was here to show them the truth. The whispers grew louder as we drifted back inside. Suddenly, I wasn't invisible. Everywhere I turned, someone wanted my attention. People who once dismissed me now hanging on my every word. Danielle, of course, was the first to try. She cornered me near the refreshments table, a nervous laugh spilling out. Emily, I didn't mean anything back then. You know how kids are. I sipped my sparkling water, letting her twist in the silence. Oh, I remember exactly how kids are. And how adults choose to be, too. Her cheeks flushed pink. Listen, I'm actually between jobs right now. Maybe you could help me? You must have connections. I looked her dead in the eyes. Help is earned. If you want me to consider it, stop tearing people down to feel taller. Start building others up for once. She blinked, stunned. No one had ever challenged her that way before. Then came Jake. He approached with the same smirk, but there was a tremor in it now. Emily, I've got to hand it to you. You proved us all wrong. Maybe we could grab dinner sometime, catch up? I almost laughed. The audacity. Jake, back then, you couldn't see past the paint on a car door. Why would I believe you could see past the shine of a Rolls Royce now? His smile faltered. He muttered something under his breath and walked away. One by one, they came, old classmates, coworkers, even distant relatives who had once made me feel small. And one by one, I gave them the same answer. I wasn't interested in their apologies or excuses. If they wanted a place in my life now, they had to earn it. Respect, I told them. Respect for me, for yourselves, and for others. That's the only currency I deal in. Some bristled. Some scoffed. But others actually listened. I saw it in their eyes, the recognition that they had wasted years measuring worth in the wrong ways. As the night wound down, Clara, my mentor who had quietly shown up to support me, squeezed my hand. You handled that beautifully, Emily, she said. Not cruel, not petty. Just honest. And that was the difference. This wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. I wasn't here to humiliate anyone. I wasn't here to bask in their shame. I was here to stand in the truth of who I'd become, and to make it clear that if anyone wanted a seat at my table, they'd have to come with humility, growth, and genuine respect. The girl who once begged for scraps of approval was gone. In her place stood a woman who finally understood. Value doesn't come from what others think of you. It comes from what you decide you're worth. That night, I walked out of the reunion with my head high, the keys to the Rolls Royce cool in my palm. Not because of the car itself, but because I finally held the power to choose who came along for the ride. The night air was cool when I stepped outside again, the glow of string lights reflecting off the hood of my Rolls Royce. I slipped into the driver's seat, closing the door with a soft, satisfying click. For a moment, I just sat there, breathing. The gymnasium behind me buzzed with the remnants of laughter, apologies, and half-hearted excuses. But I wasn't carrying any of it home. Not anymore. As I gripped the steering wheel, I remembered all the nights I had clutched it in tears, whispering prayers into the dark. I remembered the sting of humiliation, The weight of doubt, the ache of working myself to exhaustion, just to scrape by. And then, like a whisper on the wind, I heard my grandmother's voice again. One day, the car you drive will match the woman you've become. She had been right. Not because of the Rolls Royce, but because I had finally grown into the kind of woman who didn't need validation, who didn't measure herself against anyone else's expectations. The car was just a symbol, an exclamation mark at the end of a long, painful, beautiful sentence. Over the next few months, some of the people from that reunion did reach out again. But this time, it wasn't with mockery or envy. It was with sincerity. A few even admitted they had started making changes, pursuing dreams they'd buried, treating people with more kindness, rethinking what success really meant. And while not everyone changed, I had. That was enough. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. Lipstick still flawless, eyes steady, hair falling loose around my face. I saw not the girl with the rusty Corolla, but the woman who had driven herself out of the ashes. The world had mocked my beat-up car. But what they never saw was the fire in the driver's seat. I turned the key, the engine humming like a quiet promise. And as the headlights cut through the night, I whispered the truth I had earned the right to say. They mocked my beat-up car, but today, I don't just drive a Rolls Royce. I drive my destiny. And with that, I pressed the accelerator and disappeared into the city lights, free at last.